We're very fortunate tonight to have Alia Yunis, the filmmaker, in the back. And to help you understand how someone can make a film like that, you have to understand all the different things that Alia does and does very well. So she has a PhD in heritage studies and also in film. And I've had the honor and pleasure to edit 2 volumes with her. So we did a special double issue of the Middle East Journal of Culture and Communication on film and visual media in the Gulf. And then we have a new book that just came out last month called Reorienting the Middle East, Film and Digital Media Where the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, and Indian Ocean Meet. More interesting in that, though, she's also a novelist. So she wrote a book called The Night Counter, which is it's been a while since I've read it, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's a retake on Shahrazad in the 1001 Nights, but set in United States. So it's Arab America post 9/11. So that is available at bookstores all over the place. And if you've read the novel and you see the film, you can see the way that she weaves lots of different things together in an extraordinary way. She's also a journalist. She's done a lot of long form journalism, particularly for Aramco World, on things from mangoes to Iraqi film and lots of other things as well. And all these things come together in this film. This film played in lots of different film festivals, and it won film Best of the Fest at, yeah? You were like, yes, I was like, I'm pretty sure, at a couple film festivals in the United States. And it kind of really, I enjoyed watching it. This is the second time I've watched it with a live audience, and people respond to it in different ways from all over the Mediterranean world. And we're lucky enough to also have with us Jamal Rayyis. Jamal Rayyis is a US-based writer, educator, and consultant specializing in gastronomy, particularly wine. He has written about wines from around the world and is a specialist in regions surrounding the Mediterranean basin and has long held an interest in this region. Great varieties and wine styles that are underappreciated or relatively unknown. Currently, he's the critic and editor of Wine and Spirits magazine and the U.S. correspondent for the French wine magazine Gilbert Gaillot International, and he's author of 7 editions of Food and Wine magazine's annual wine guide from 2002 to 2008 were the years for that. His work has appeared in numerous publications, including Wine and Spirits, Wine Enthusiast, Departures, and New York magazines, the New York Times, Fedor's, and several others. Currently, Jamal is writing a monograph about the politics of wine of the Middle East and North Africa. If he prefers one thing to wine, it is olive oil. Thank you. Okay, so now if we could welcome our 2 speakers to the front.
Ready? Ready. Great. Well, thanks for this wonderful opportunity for me to see it 2.5 times. I've seen it 2.5 times before. I guess you cover a lot of ground, literally and figuratively. I wonder, you jump from Stratton, Palestine, essentially, and then you go to Greece, then you go to Italy, then you go to Spain, then you go to back and forth, back and forth. So I wonder if you could just tell me what the narrative arc was at the beginning. Obviously, your father was a major inspiration for it in some way.
Hello. Yeah. My father actually came into the film rather late, but I will explain that. For me, I don't like to watch the film because I've seen it probably 1,000 times. But I came towards the end, and I actually find it strange to watch it under the current circumstances. But my goal in making the film, I wanted to engage with Palestine I grew up a lot in Lebanon, and it's easy, and I've written a fair amount about Lebanon, and I wanted to write about Palestine, but I didn't want to write about or make a film about the occupation literally. And so I tried to find a way of talking about Palestine as a place that's connected to the rest of the world and not this isolated place that lives in the news only, but that it's actually been a vital part of the Mediterranean culture for millennium. And I think that was a big part of it. And the other thought was olive oil itself, that it was just every time you mention an olive tree or an olive oil to someone from the Mediterranean, it just, they're like, oh no, you got him to see my grandmother and when we had the most amazing trees, and everyone does that. And even places I didn't film, they would, like Slovenia, she's like, how can you be making a film about olive oil and not include me? Let me tell you about my trees. And so it's always like that. So I think that was, those two things framed it.
And how did you choose the places you went? And by the way, Yunis de Prado is my favorite olive oil in the world.
Is it
so
really?
It really is.
Okay.
The one with Paco and his brother Alfonso. Yeah.
Yeah, theirs is very unique also because I didn't put it in the film, but they don't
Clarify.
clarify. Thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of people, there's 80 hours of footage I filmed. So this is only some of the people I filmed. And they're the ones that, when I met them and I filmed with them and all, they spoke to me the most, and they wove into the story I was telling the most, and they were the most sincere. Everybody in this film is very sincere about everything they're saying. And that was really important to me too. None of them were performing for the camera or anything like that. So.
How about the Palestinians? Obviously the scene with the when he goes to the tunnel to the former olive grove graveyard is such a poignant moment. How did you find him? And
So Vivian is the one walking through the tunnel with
right,
them.
yeah,
So
sure.
yeah, a lot of people think it's me, but he was someone she had gotten to know, and it was through her that I met him, and his story was so compelling that I wanted to film it. And yeah, so everybody in the film is word of mouth. Like someone said, oh, you need to meet so and so, or you need to meet so and so, and that would lead from one person to the other. And some were accidents. Some were people I just ran into in the street, and they were like, what are you guys doing? And then they had a really good story to tell. And yeah.
Story. Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was very poignant. I'm going to go back to the scene about the graveyard. Was very poignant to me. I think I told you in an email. I grew up in Los Angeles, and Palestinian parents, and they had mapped out where every olive tree was in our area. And back then, when we were children, we were obliged at a certain point of the year, actually twice a year, to knock on the person's door who had the olive tree in front and actually go ask them, do you mind if we pick your olives? We do it twice, one for green, one for black. And everybody said yes, because of course, olives, when they drop, when they're black, they make a complete mess of the yard and in the driveway. Unfortunately, we never made olive oil, and this was something. I mean, it was before it became sort of a thing. And my father used to do research for this, and but in terms of my father's trees, my father came from Gaza, and well, we know the trees aren't. We don't know, but I will say honestly that as much as treasured as the olives there and the olive oil from there is, it's not the best olive oil. You know, it's better from. So I violated the narrative there. You know, it was too warm. It was too warm for olives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's everyone is different. It's true, but that is a rare thing for someone to say. And I do want to acknowledge that, Jamal is probably not going to say this himself, but his family, he has a lot of family right now, and a lot of them have paid a very heavy price. So I want to acknowledge that. And also Gaza, we have the loss of trees is a huge part of what's happening now also. And it's not just the olive trees, it's the pomegranate trees, it's it's a Mediterranean climate. It's always been a place of agriculture, and so all of that is also been destroyed, not just in the last 5 months, but over the years. So,
I mean, I've heard, have you, not that the numbers exactly matter, but I've heard some huge numbers of trees destroyed. I mean, the million comes to mind, it comes, is a quoted, frequently quoted number, but I've heard that over the years, and certainly it's reasonable.
I mean, it could be in southern Lebanon. Just in October, the Israeli army destroyed 40,000 trees in just southern Lebanon in October. So that gives you an idea of, I can't even imagine the numbers overall. Yeah.
Something I wanted to go to was, which you touch on the end of the film, is the problem with the Xylella fastidiosa, which is a bacterium that is transmitted by flies,
Mhm.
by fruit flies, and it cuts off the circulation of the trees. And Puglia, which is the largest producing region in Italy by far, is undergoing a massive die-off right now. And what are the things that people are doing to mitigate? I know you mentioned, some people mentioned the government is burning the trees, but that seems to be, it's spreading. It's not successful.
No, it's still spreading. It's still a problem. It's come to Greece also at a small. It's come to all the olive
All that
countries
method,
have
yeah.
it now, and North Africa included. And it's really hard to stop. And now it's been compounded this past year by drought. So like it's if you go to the supermarket in the next 2 years, your olive oil is probably going to be more
It's
expensive than
30%
normal.
more than it was
Really?
now here, yeah,
Yeah,
at least.
that's from the drought,
Yeah.
especially in Spain, which accounts for most of the olive oil. Yeah, so there's it's compounded by all those things. Yeah.
And there's no solution.
No, not yet. Nobody, except massive pesticides or cutting the trees down that have been infected.
Okay.
And as I think you can tell from this film, it's very painful for people to cut down an olive tree.
Yeah.
So that's part of what they're struggling with.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I guess we should answer. Are there any questions? I keep talking, but
The question. The comment is just really to say what's pretty much been said, but that's a really beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
And so I thank you for that. And indeed, the connection that you make between Palestine and olive trees and the rest of the Mediterranean, I think is really profound and important at this moment also, especially. And I'm wondering how we can get the film. I mean, I know that it's been shown and so on, but this may be a moment where a film like this, especially for chapters, you know, for example, at my university, SJP would very much want to screen a film like this. I mean, they're showing Israelism today, but the point is, this is more about getting across the culture of Palestine, and it is about not just survival, but also, you know, I mean, food and life and joy, right? So along with the sadness, all those things, the film conveys that. And then my question really, you also sort of towards the end talk about, you know, all of those trees, I forget the word, that are going to be planted in Cordoba, right? And I found that really important and interesting because, of course, Cordoba, as we all know, is the place of convivencia, right? So I'm wondering if you were thinking about that, and also how can we, you know, if the film is shown, I'm thinking of community events, right? People who are Italian American who love to talk and cook about, you know, I mean, I have many in my neighborhood who make wonderful meals. They don't know these connections. You know, not every, you know, so I'm wondering if there is a way that this film can be really useful in a much broader way, and what ideas might you have to get it out there, and especially in New York suburbs, New Jersey suburbs, where people are really ignorant about a lot of this.
I don't know. I'm really, really terrible at this whole marketing distribution thing. So I'm actually not the person that knows the answer, but I have given it to communities that have asked to see it after, given the current circumstances. Yep, I have thousands of dollars of debt on this film, but for me, it's more important that it's seen in the current circumstances. So if there's a community that wants to, you can contact me and I can, so, yeah.
Good. Yes.
Okay.
Over here, please. Yeah.
And- Well, that begs the question, is it on any streaming services?
Um, only on an Arabic one, called NBC, if any of you have that for whatever reason. Yeah, but no, it's not at the
Because
moment.
Netflix has a large, you know, Arab,
Mhm.
uh, Arab content. I mean, I think, have you approached them?
So the film is with a distributor that is that focuses on Arab language content. Not that this is an Arab language film, but they are the ones who decided that it wouldn't be one of the friend. So most of those Arab films that you see on Netflix came through them. It's called Mad Distribution, but they, for whatever reason, didn't want to offer my film to as a Netflix option in their package. And I think that had to do with their own marketing.
That's
So,
strange.
yeah, so it was
But
not good for me.
my real question is, it's two-part and more technical about filmmaking. So did you have funding before you started? Because, I mean, it's a wonderful film and you cover a lot of ground. And, you know, I'm a filmmaker, so I know that was expensive. So that's part of the question. And the other part is how many years or how long did it take you to make it?
Yeah, so I work full time also. So this is something I did between my job, um, teaching at university. I made this film teaching over 2 universities, and it was um, a lot of it took a lot of time because I hardly had time when I was teaching. But then at the same time, the first university paid a huge part of this. The Zayed University in Abu Dhabi paid a huge part of the funding in a research grant they gave me. So that, but the money came from different funds I applied to and all of that. I would never do this again. This is the really wrong way to go about funding, but I really, really wanted to make the film, and I knew I wanted to start. Again, if there's any other filmmakers, do not do it this way. But you should have a lot more money secured before you start making a film than I did.
Oh, that's typically not the case.
Yeah.
Documentary.
Yeah, and I benefited by a lot of generosity from the musicians that contributed to the music in this film. Some of them are quite well known, and they all gave it to me for free. So I had,
That was the question.
Oh.
The music is particular, right? So
yeah, and so I was really lucky that that helped. And what else? Where did I say? And I don't know. It's done a lot cheaper than you would think. um, so. 5 years. Mhm. Okay, wait. 3, but like it's been 5. Yeah.
Looks expensive.
Yeah. Nice to see you.
Mabruk, Alf Mabruk, for all of the uphill climbing that had to be done in order to get this executed. It's a beautiful product, and thank you for sharing it with us. I guess I have like a one question that's two-parted. My first aspect of it is, how do we support the people who are directly in the film? Like, are there resources to these particular families and olive oil companies that we can help like directly with as consumers? And then my second part of that question is, how can we help fund and further push your work and make sure that we can actively play a role in distributing it or purchasing the film on our own or something of that nature that we can help supplement?
I'm a little not sure how to answer the second one, but the first one, I can for what I can tell you, and I think Jamal knows this. The go buy olive oil from small people. You know, the guys who are actually trying to do what Pavlos is doing. That they're trying to bottle their own oil from their own trees and sell it. And you will get better oil, no matter. It's just it's been less processed. It's coming right from the tree to the mill to you. If you're particularly interested in the Palestinian oil, the man you met there, it's Canaan oil, and it's sold in the United States under the name El Ard, and there's distributors. Online if you Google, and I can send you directly if you want. There you can order it on. You can order the oil online. I don't know what their oil is going to be like given the current circumstances. Everything started in October, and October is actually olive harvest season. So I don't know how much olives were actually picked this year. I'd be curious to know how many they were able to pick. But that's always my guidance. Like, try to go to the small ones, and it's maybe sometimes a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it for how we do business in this world and how we respect artisans. And yeah.
Canaan is distributed in retail in New York as
Oh,
well.
see.
So
Mhm.
you can find it in certain
Like Whole
upscale
Foods or something.
supermarkets or I don't know. I think I have seen it at Whole Foods like a long time ago, but the Hadis yeah, so they're different places. Yeah.
I guess New York is different probably than other places. Yeah.
But you speak to the point about, making good olive oil is a very expensive
Mhm.
proposition. And of course, we all have a certain economy that we want to maintain, but it's, even if you have to buy the stuff from Trader Joe's to do your frying, I mean, make sure you have some really good olive oil beside. You'll be supporting a farmer and his or her family, and you'll have great oil. So
I'm glad you used the word her because I think the olive industry is very male oriented, but actually there are a lot of, you saw Hikmet in this film, but it is a male dominated industry all over the world, but there are some women that run these farms, and they have an extra hard time um, getting into the market and maintaining the same prices and getting the workers working on. So I think the issue of gender does exist in
yeah.
the olive oil business a lot.
I have a question. I am also a journalist, so thank you for your storytelling and thank you for this beautiful film. You had mentioned that there's over 80 hours of footage, right?
Mhm.
I'm curious, what did you unfortunately have to leave on the cutting room floor? What stories still kind of stick with you that didn't make it to the screen that you still think about?
Um, uh, these days, I guess I do think about, I didn't want to make it an very political film in the sense that you would choke on all that I heard about what was going on in Palestine. So there's some things there that are not in the film that are just, they're not particularly related directly to olive trees, but to what's happening to the landscape there. And I didn't put those in the film. I'm finding ways to use them now, but like I didn't, because I didn't want the film to be drowned by the sorrow of Palestine. I also wanted to share its joy. So there's a few of those. There's the other ones that I left. There was a beautiful story in Cordoba of these, I don't know in the US what the correct language is now, but disabled people that were working in an olive oil. They were collecting all the oil in all the used oil at houses in Spain and turning it into fuel for cars. That was in Cordoba is not, it's right there with the Middle East and having no budgets and no money and not a very stable infrastructure. So it was amazing that they could maintain it. Unfortunately, they couldn't after about 5 years, but it was a really lovely initiative that I did have in the film at one point and I cut out. Yeah. And that one always sticks with me as, yeah.
80 hours, not a lot of footage generally for a documentary.
No.
It's impressive what you were able to extract from that film.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I'm gonna, this is someone else, okay.
Wanted to quickly follow up. I was thinking about this. I wondered if you're, oh, thank you. I wondered if when, in your travels, right, especially after leaving Palestine and then, talking to people and bringing people from these other Mediterranean countries into the film, talking, as introducing the topic, talking to them, did many of them know about the olive trees and the situation in Palestine as stories that came up that didn't necessarily appear in the film, but in your personal interactions, was there something that happened because of those exchanges, some understanding, some appreciation for those connections?
I'll tell you honestly, I was surprised how much they actually did know, the people I talked to. So for example, Monini, who's the CEO of one of the biggest olive oil companies in the world, when he said to me, "Where are you from?" and we were chatting, he goes, "Oh, Palestine, the origin of olive oil." So like he had that in his, and and then so they were more aware. Pavlos obviously is quite involved in activism around food and trees. So they were mostly, Enzo most certainly. I think everyone in this film is aware. I think the olive tree is so important to that Mediterranean culture. They're pretty aware of the situation of other places. So I would say, yeah. And I don't have North Africa a lot in this film because of budget reasons, but they're also, most of the migrant workers in Spain that actually pick the olives are from Morocco and Tunisia. And so there's also there's a strong understanding of their connection to the Arab world, because the migrant workers that know how to handle the olives are coming from North African Arab countries.
Yeah, I was just going to say about that. So, I'm Portuguese.
Mhm.
Olive trees. And so I kept hearing the word azeitona, which is the Portuguese word for it, right?
Yeah, but it
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but in
And I was like,
origin,
wait a second, he's saying azeitona. That is that's the word.
yeah.
And then just maybe kind of as an aside and kind of as a joke, you kept mentioning that like the best olive oil is olive oil from whatever. So I feel the same way.
Okay.
So when I go back, I end up like with a whole thing of olive oil in my luggage, like 5 liters of it.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened to me. So that's an option too, people. You can go and just like
It's legal to bring it back. No, don't worry. You're not,
just bag it.
you're not violating any laws. Don't worry.
And that's the best thing.
In Jordan, they actually stopped people from doing that because there were so many olive oil accidents in the suitcases. And it was like actually destroying other people's luggage. Yeah. Yeah. But I think, yeah, Portugal also came up. And yeah, zaytun is an Arabic word. And then, and zait is an asete. It all originates from the Arabic word. Yeah.
Yes.
A scene where they're looking at the olives in your pocket
Mm-hmm.
and they're drinking something out of a container.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like olive oil, but I can't imagine they're drinking olive oil. But is it like a Kool-Aid or a wine or?
No, it's an alcohol that they drink. I'm having.
Oh,
a
it's
brain-
really yellow.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's very famous. Huh? No, it's Greek. Yeah. No, mastika.
Oh, okay.
And they drink it every night after the harvest.
Do you put olive oil on your oranges?
I tried it after he told me. I never heard that one before.
It sounds delicious.
Yeah, it is actually.
Well, I put grapefruit in my salads and I put a lot of olive oil. So there you go.
It's the citrus oil thing.
What kind of olive oil do you use?
I try to, oh man.
Okay, okay,
I do.
I'm going to intervene, I'm going to intervene in this one because
Yeah,
this is,
say it.
no, I'm not going to say it, but what I'm going to say is that, so as two food writers, we think about food politically, but we also think about it hedonically as well, right? So this is just about the process of making all of it. We all saw at least three different picking methods for the olives. There's the stripping method that was being used in Greece and in Palestine. There was the whacking method, which, and then there was the brutal shaking method by the communists in so, which actually disappointed me
Yeah.
horribly. But what is your impression, and also sort of the consensus? Obviously, everybody says they do things the best way, but there's a difference in some way. And so I'm wondering how you think that each way might have a difference. And also when you process the oil, people mentioned that they bring their olives to the mill quickly. If you don't, it slows down. However, there's also some people who allege that you should let the olives rest for a couple of days at least before you bring it in. And then some people also say that you should let the olive oil rest for a little while before. And so I'm just wondering what you think the differences might be. And
Yeah, that the thing about the not taking it to the mill right away, I think was kind of normal at some point, and it was not even considered a bad thing. But
Yeah.
I think now the idea of what defines extra virgin means it has to come out of the press. It has to go to the press right away. So there's a bit of in one town I was in, it's Beit Jala, they do wait. And they, of course, also think they have the best olive oil in the world. But it does.
I was going to say that actually it's pretty close to the true.
Really, for you?
I
Yeah,
think so,
and they
yeah.
let it rest. And a lot of people don't like their oil because they say it has a slightly musky feeling to it
Yeah.
because they let it rest. So it is like it depends on your taste actually. But now the general industry idea is it has to go right to the mill to keep the highest quality and the highest nutritional quality also. But yeah. But
Yeah.
you like the
Well, I'd say the best. It depends what you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Depends what you're doing with it. So, and what about different varieties? Now, there was the professor, the researcher who's trying to collect every cultivar,
yeah.
1,200 around. So are some becoming sort of hegemonic in
Yes.
the world of olive production?
I think the professor himself, he's the one who also is the brains behind super high density planting. And like he said in the film, if you do, they only know how to do a couple kinds of olives that way.
Yeah.
And so those are becoming the most common, arbequina. And they're just
I
becoming.
didn't get the other one. What was the other one? It wasn't Picual. No.
Picual.
Picual. Okay.
So they're having more of a, they're easier to produce and when it comes to industry, Spain is the leader, hands down. And so whatever Spain keeps on producing is going to become the variety that becomes most common. And I think so. We are losing a lot of varieties because they haven't been industrialized. So it's when those smaller areas and they don't do their own oil, then that variety will die. And yeah, or will not be enough to have oil. So yeah, and I think this isn't just the olive tree. It's all over with these kind of fruit bearing trees that are cash crops. I spent a lot of time working on mango trees, and they have the same thing. And the date tree, and that there's just so many losses of kinds. You know, like there all these trees had over 1,000 kinds, and yeah, now we're down to a couple hundred.
The big globalization of the
Yeah.
standardization,
Yeah.
marginalization of the market.
Yeah. Like, so it's a lot like of, yeah. So we're losing variety, except for the apple. the apple, they keep finding new ways of, and that's American agriculture. That's why if you go there every year, there's new kinds of
Minnesota is a
apples.
really big place for that.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It's maybe why I always do. That's my second favorite tree. Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, because this country's like like a lot of times we have to trash the U.S. because it's like obvious for some reasons, but then they're number one when it comes to apples. Really, so many good kinds.
Film has a bit about false branding and fake olive oil. Seems to be a huge issue in the industry.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge problem, especially in Italy, because Italy imports a lot of its oil most of the oil that you buy in this country that's marked as made in Italy. It's bottled in
They
Italy.
call it
If you-
bottle, they call it bottle in Italy now.
yeah, and it's actually coming from well, like you heard, Spain and Tunisia, and it's just and then they throw in cheaper oils or something called pomace oil, which is the waste of the seed. So when they crush the seeds, it's really only meant for cows, and mulch kind of thing. But they put it in bottles to extend the oil, and then they get away with labeling it different things. And going back to the point about going to the people who actually made the oil, you avoid that. Because the other oils are actually bad for you. Olive oil is good for you, and those oils that they'll mix in are bad for you. And so I think, yeah, you have to know your sources to avoid that, or know really the company, because it's such a cash crop for so many people but it's a very delicate process. And so for the mass consumption of it, so like China is now the hugest market for olive oil because it's become a thing in China. And if you know the numbers, so a lot of that olive oil that's going to China is being marked as extra virgin, but it's not, because they know on the other side, the Chinese inspectors either won't know or won't care. So they're able to send a lot of fraudulent oil that way.
There's a booming industry in China now. I mean, a lot of trees have been planted, and one of my brothers was living in China, and he became friendly with a Palestinian man who actually was planting a lot of olive trees there. Yeah.
That's really cool, because India is also trying to grow olive trees with a collaboration with Israel. I don't know, in Rajasthan, and I don't know where that went, but yeah, it's because it's also everywhere in the world. It's getting to be a big product, a product people want because of the magical things about it. But it's only magical if you're getting the pure kind. So now, yeah, there's all these. Saudi Arabia now plans to be the largest producer of olive oil in the Arab world, because they're planting. So we have there's this whole industrialization of agriculture that's reshaping what we consider Mediterranean. If Saudi Arabia ends up producing more olive oil than Morocco, then you kind of, yeah, wreck that thing.
Oh, yeah, since you already asked.
Hi, thank you. That was so moving. Two things. I know you went everywhere, but I was curious why Turkey was not there on the route. I mean, that sort of seems like, such an important place. I'm thinking of the Ottoman Empire and olives and all that. I was also curious, but since I have the two of you here, what do they make of Australian olive oil and the Californian olive oil? I mean, all these folks, right? This is the new world. There's
Yeah.
always this competition, right? About wine and what had happened, and especially after the California fires. Anyway, I'm curious, because there is the Australian and then there is the Californian versions of this, right? Yeah.
Which both have fires, probably.
I know,
Yeah.
exactly, the fires, yeah.
I'll let you answer the one about California, because you're a native Californian also.
Well, the industry is growing, and it used to be very specialized in terms of price. So it was a more expensive product. Now there are some bottlers, some producers who have rationalized it in some way, and so it is a bit more accessible. Quality is good. They tend to use heritage Spanish varieties or some Portuguese, but yeah, there's very good. Australia, same. Chile is a very large, growing olive oil producer as well. Essentially, where you find grapes, for wine, you can find, well, you find plenty of grapes in Germany, but you don't find olive trees in Germany yet. But, climate change.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah, but
Two ancient oils that can be cold pressed, olive with sesame. But I come from a sesame oil culture. But all the talk is always about olive oil. I've never heard any sort of,
well, I think,
I mean,
sesame oil, yeah.
which is at least as healthy. My understanding, at least as healthy. There we go.
I mean, sesame oil is, like in the United States or in Europe, it's not a cooking, we don't think of it as a cooking oil, although it can be, yes. So what we get is the little bottles with highly roasted bottles in Asian or East Asian markets. Whereas of course, when I first time I spent time with my uncle family in the Middle East, I said, I'm going to cook you Chinese food. I said, I need sesame oil. And they said, okay, they got me sesame oil. I said, what's this? I had no idea. So well, we just cook with it. So yeah. I don't know why. Maybe the diversity of flavor, maybe fewer people. I'm not sure.
yeah, it's interesting because tahini is big, and tahini is essentially sesame seeds. And I don't know why it's I know one small reason it could be is that it goes rancid faster, but I don't know if that's because here they can produce things without them having to go rancid. So I don't know. But
I mean, we don't see nut oils. I mean, nut oils, you
Yeah.
could like do walnut oil or almond. Well, almond oil is a very good cooking oil so long as it's refined. You have to refine it though. You can't just press it.
yeah, and I also think it's that relationship to the Mediterranean diet, because when that study came out that the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest diet in the world, that has always, but nobody's come out yet and said the Chinese diet is the healthiest in the world, or wherever there's a whole sesame seed oil based. Yeah, so I don't know if that could be. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it. That idea of
Yeah. Well, next generation of food propagandists will.
yeah,
change that.
exactly. So they, like the woman said in the film, Italy
There's opportunity out
capitalized on
there.
it.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's if someone else capitalizes on sesame oil, then it becomes a thing. Yeah.
Olive oil basically is the best to cook and to use in salad, better than avocado, better than, and nobody should use even canola oil
Definitely not.
or soy oil. This is all should be banned from the.
It's true. I mean, if we're talking about health, you should not be using those oils.
And
But sesame is
there's
great.
an elegant, the highest is a particular producer in Morocco that claims to have, polyphenols are like
Yeah.
off the chart, but then I heard, but it's only second to Spain. So I don't know. I have no idea what that means. Do we have to?
I think we're at time.
We're out of time.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. There's a reception downstairs where we continue the conversation.